Welcome to Walk the Talk. I am so happy that you are here tonight as we talk about inclusion. Hey girl, hey. How y'all doing? Hey. I'm getting a glare on these, so I'm gonna just take them off. So if I can't see you, it's not because I don't love you. So Walk the Talk, listen, this is our 20th show. 20 shows. It's phenomenal. 6 amazing speakers are gonna come out here and share their experience, their story with you, a little piece of their life. And my thought, my hope, my belief for you is that you will take away something that impacts you, that you can take forward with you on your journey toward inclusion. Everybody need to include somebody, right? So one of the things that we do as part of this show is really super dope to see young people talking about whatever topic it is that we are covering for that day. So we'll go out to a school and we will interview some young people, some teens, some kids, various ages to see what are their minds and hearts thinking about inclusion. So we want to share a quick video with you for our Walk the Talk teens.
Inclusion to me means that everybody is given the same opportunity to reach their full potential.
Appreciating every person in our lives and our communities for the set of distinct values and gifts that they have to offer.
Having the ability to try new things and to let other people into your lives and just new events to happen to you.
It means bringing together all sorts of different people, no matter your background, your faith, your race, whatever culture you come from, realizing that though we might have different backgrounds, we are all people and we all belong to be together. And the more we bring in people with different backgrounds, the more educated and the more welcoming we are.
So to me, inclusion means that not only being asked to be part of things, but also the individual that was asked to be a part of those things feels comfortable and like they actually belong there.
One time that I created a space of honesty and inclusion for others is this past week I was actually on a retreat. It involved a lot of opening up, so it was important to give affirmations and making people feel comfortable in order to create an environment where they can be honest and open up and share what they would like to share.
So here at my school, I have the honor of being the president of the Champions Together Committee. And so what that committee does is we're a partnership between the Indiana High School Athletic Association and Special Olympics Indiana. So what we strive to do is integrate Special Olympics athletes into the high school athletic system, which is sadly an opportunity that they don't always have. And so we invite Special Olympics athletes to Garen to participate in athletic team practices, sometimes in games. For example, our biggest event every year is we invite a Special Olympics basketball team to come to Garen Catholic during a boys varsity basketball game. And during halftime of that game, they're able to perform a scrimmage in front of that huge, vibrant high school athletic crowd, which is, again, sadly an opportunity that they're void of.
So inclusion plays a role in my life because from the perspective of as a disabled individual, I'm surrounded by a lot of people that don't use wheelchairs, and so that's definitely taken a toll on my mental health, but so having people to back me up has been a really great experience, and having friends and a support system.
So for me, I believe that inclusion and diversity are so important because without it, we would just be with people that are exactly like us, with people that give us no differing views. We'd be completely flat people. We wouldn't be rounded out like so many other people are.
Diversity and inclusion among a people help to diversify the range of beliefs, also conviction in your own beliefs, and no one wants to be around a group of people that believes in the same things and holds the same values, because if that's the case, how is any growth going to occur?
Even if you don't want to do something, I think it's really important to be asked to do it, because you're given the opportunity to say no, and it means that other people are thinking of you. So if there was one thing I could tell people that don't have disabilities about the disabled community, it would be that we're honestly just the same as everybody else, and we deserve to feel included and loved no matter where we go and who we're with. And like, I might not physically look like other people, but that's okay. Like, that's honestly a great thing, because it allows me to share like my perspective on life.
Yes. The young people often have us older folks. You know, they get it sometimes. So sometimes we need to look to them for the lessons, and they'll show us the way to go, right? So I did not introduce myself to you. I'm Stephanie. Hello. Nice to meet you. I joined the tribe, so that's what we call ourselves, and you are all inducted into the Walk the Talk tribe. Walk the Talk tribe. See, this is what I do, man. Hey. See, these are my people. That's how you know you with your people, right? So in 2017, I came to my first talk. I sat down in the audience, and I heard a gentleman tell me that I was amazing, I was whole, I was limitless. And I believed him. And I took that, and I've been coming ever since. And each time I get something a little bit different out of the talks, the speakers, the shows, the experience. And we really, really are endeavoring to walk the talk. So you have probably heard the word inclusion around a little bit. In your workspaces, perhaps, right? Sometimes tied with the word in diversity, right? But it's going a step further. I can count the people in the room, and demographically speaking, we can say, okay, we've got a pretty diverse room. But inclusion is that you feel welcome in the room, that you feel safe in the room, that you can share in the room without fear, okay? So I know each and every person in here, no matter your ethnicity, religion, your personal circumstances, you feel something that you have to hold back just a little bit. Because if I show them this, will they really accept me? So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And my prayer again is that you walk away feeling okay with who you are in your skin. Okay? So, to set the room, to get the ambiance flowing the way it needs to, I am going to welcome a young lady to the stage, and I want you to send good energy, good vibration this way toward the stage, right? Because we can feel it. Okay. This young lady coming first tonight, she's going to lead us in a bit of a meditation. She is a mommy, a doula, an author, an amazing young person. She inspires me watching her walk her talk. So please, please, please give her a warm welcome, Miss Lavia Graham.
Good evening, everyone. I'm very grateful to be back on the Walk the Talk stage again and to be here with all of you. I am so grateful for my life. It has been a long road. I have been included and I have been excluded. My spiritual journey, however, has led me to one truth, that I am love. I am love, and we are one. Please join me in a heart-opening meditation. I invite you to stay in this divine connection as we listen to these powerful speakers tell their stories this evening. We will begin by closing our eyes or bringing them to a low gaze. Now, let's bring our mind, body, and energy to the present moment with some conscious breath work. We will start by slowly inhaling through the nose on a count of 4. So let's inhale together. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. Now slowly exhale through the mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4. Release. And again, inhale. Hold the breath. Now slowly exhale. And one last time all together. Inhale. Hold it. Now slowly exhale through the mouth. Release. Now, let's take this next moment to drop our identities. Drop your name. Drop your race. Drop your gender. Drop your religion. Drop your social status. Drop all of your thoughts. Drop everything. What are you left with? You are left with your spirit. Before we let this world give us names, labels, and titles, we were resting in our spirits or our inner being. You can also call this your God nature. Your God nature is not separated from anyone or anything. And when you bring your awareness to your God nature, it is easy for you to see yourself inside of others. That is how you truly embody inclusion. And when we have our moments, when we feel we are separated and different from others, bring yourself back to your God nature, which is all inclusive, all love, and not separated from anyone or anything. Take a breath. And with this next breath, feel peace. Feel this love. Feel this love flowing all through the auditorium this evening. Exhale, release. And whenever you're ready, you can bring your awareness back to this room by opening your eyes. Thank you. Om, namaste, peace and blessings, everyone.
Peace and blessings, everyone. Look, I came out, I'm like, hey. I think Erykah Badu had a song like that. Peace and blessings, everyone. Okay, you ready? Are you ready? Okay, because these speakers need you to be ready now. They need that positivity flowing. So, let's get this party started. First, tonight, we have an amazing woman here to share her story, a part of it, just a snippet, and some things that she's learned about inclusion. So please, please, warmly welcome Miss Dimple Shah. Wow. Flicker.
Wow. Any confetti? All good? All right. Namaste. Growing up in India, I was the youngest of 2 girls, and also the pampered one. Never in the wildest of my imaginations would I have imagined moving away from these three pillars upon whom I had relied all my life. As destiny would have it, my wedding to my best friend in 2005 did just that. And I moved here to the United States, thousands of miles away from home. A move that I thought was temporary at the time. After almost 17 years later, as you can see, I'm still here. Springfield, Missouri became my hometown in the US. Getting a work permit over there was a challenge in the small town, so I pursued higher education. Life almost immediately started sending conflicting signals along my way that manifested stories in my mind regarding how I was being received in a new country. Where on one hand, most of our friends were Americans. On the other hand, one of the most common questions I was asked was, "How is your English so powerful?" People were visibly surprised when I shared that India had the second largest population of English speakers, second to the United States, and that English was one of the 2 official languages spoken in India. One evening, as my husband and I were strolling around college campus, a bunch of kids drove by us yelling profanities. Among other hateful things, they told us to get the bleep out of their country. I was scared and angry. My husband, who at the time was more experienced in dealing with such a situation, told me, "Keep your head down and keep walking." But you don't get to treat someone this way, right? Even though I didn't say anything out loud, that day was the first time I shushed my feelings. And then started a long and taxing road to cultural shocks. The struggles that seemed small and natural to ethnic integration pretty soon led to an emotional turmoil as the looks and profanities became more frequent in and out of the campus. Another such incident was during the same year in Chicago when our car was towed. So here's how it went. I called 911 and said, "Good morning, madam. My car was parked right here and I do not see it anywhere. I need some help." "I can't really understand you." "Madam, my car was parked right here and I do not know what to do. I need some help." "Honey, I really can't understand what you're trying to say." "My car is towed. Can you please help me?" "Oh, your car is towed." That is when I realized that I will have to adapt a new accent in order to be better understood here. When my family back home noticed my changed accent, it kind of led to mixed feelings. One, it felt like validation, like I was beginning to fit in to this new world around me. On the other hand, I felt a little distant from my roots. Another pile of shushed feelings there. Being in minority at most workplaces, people often ask me questions about my cultural heritage. My response to them is filled with humility and pride. An ex-colleague way back when once asked me, "India is a largely populated country now?" With the usual sparkle in my eye, I had barely begun to say yes when he interrupted me with a smirk. "Oh, is that why you're here?" I still remember the tone of his voice and his apathetic smile as he left me there with a million interpretations of what just happened here. Another colleague once looked into my laptop and jumped as if he had seen an alien or a ghost. I stared at him as he asked, "What the heck is that on your screen?" Too stunned and offended to speak for what seemed like forever, I finally found my voice and I replied softly, "That is a picture of Ganesha, one of the most worshipped gods in Hindu religion. I love him. As he walked away with an unapologetic sorry, I made a promise to myself never to have a picture of Ganesha ever again on my work laptop because I could not take another word of disrespect for my God. How about a quick crash course here? Ganesha, elephant god. Hanuman, monkey god. Swastika, a symbol of auspiciousness often associated with Hindu religion and not a symbol of infamy adopted by Nazis. When I look back all these years, I realize even though my stories might be different than any other intersectional diverse person living in another country, my feelings might not. I still get sarcastic looks and smiles and comments, or even get talked over when I present an idea that might seem very bold. In work or in social diverse settings, my family still gets treated differently at certain restaurants. Sometimes I cannot even put my finger at a time or an incident when we were treated differently, but you just know. The feeling that you experience in your heart, in your gut, is often so hard to express in words, especially to someone who is not going through what you're going through. We often suffer through these moments alone. And when microaggressions happen over and over again, they aren't micro at all. And I kept wondering why. Why did I not say anything? I was dodging behind these uncomfortable smiles with a deal with it strategy. Maybe because of my work moment? Maybe because I was scared to enrage anyone enough that could land me in difficulty with immigration? When the reality is essentially the feeling of belonging was still missing for me. And then I had an epiphany. I can't really put my finger at a time or an incident when it did, but when it did, I realized, yes, I was born in another country. Yes, there are layers of diversity that I am so proud of. The feeling that the turmoil that we had to go through when leaving our families thousands of miles away was an incredibly stressful one that can get emotionally stressful even now. Now it's home. My beliefs, my upbringing that defined me and my uniqueness stayed with me. Inherently, I just wanted to be accepted the way I was. And after this small little moment of triumph, I showed up without the subtle urge of fitting in and completely accepted my diversity. For instance, when professional headshots were becoming more common on LinkedIn, I chose a one that represented me, my ethnicity. And when I didn't get any critical feedback about it, it felt like a victory. According to a recent UNESCO report, only 41 countries worldwide accept sign language as an official language. The report also says that the key barrier to inclusion in education is the belief that it is needed and it is essential. The door that I had opened up for myself showed me hopeful horizons on the other end, and this was one, because inclusion, I realized, was not limited to caste, creed, or nationality alone. The second revelation that I had for myself is inclusion is an effort that needs to be put in by someone who wants to be included. While the primary notion of inclusion is based on humanity, most people don't even know what they don't know. So even though we need help, they don't know we need help. Diversity is not a checkbox to put a tick on. If you'd rather put a check mark, Put it on the person or the action and not the box itself. After I had this realization and started making these intentional changes, I realized that I have so many cheerleaders who believe in me more than sometimes I believe in myself. And they are truly a mix of diverse men and women that have become such good friends over a period of time. They want to hear my stories. When I share these continued struggles as an immigrant, they genuinely care. And they are genuinely shocked. For the longest time, I let my feelings of shushing up pile on ceaselessly. Not anymore. Because while white men and women think that they are strong allies, research shows that the number don't match at the receiving end. And it's time to fix that. By taking that first step, inclusion can be a two-way street. And it's okay, you might take 10 steps. Someone might take 5 steps, or someone might not even take a single step. And that's okay, you know why? Because inclusion is a process, it's not a result. My humble request to everyone present here, or anyone who ever listens to this talk at any time, take the courage for that first step. Talk to someone about how inclusion can be an intentional task for you and for people around you. Doesn't have to be a huge undertaking. Start from wherever you are, and I promise you it's the right place to start. It's gonna be a daunting and even challenging step, and a bumpy road to walk on. But it's well worth the effort. Will you walk with me? Thank you for listening.
Great job, Dimple. Now I will come out and join you. So, thank you. I have a question for you before you leave.
Yes, ma'am.
So I know that there's someone special in your life that's celebrating an important day soon. How do you keep the culture with your kids? How do you maintain that?
Yes, my heart walking outside of my body turns 11 in 2 days. I love you, buddy. One of the main things that we introduced as soon as he was born was whenever we are around family, we always talk in our mother tongue. He talks to my family in our mother tongue, my in-laws in mother tongue. When we are around other people who don't speak the same language as we do, like in his schools or anywhere else, we converse in English. The other important thing also is we have a very close circle of Indian community and Indian friends circle who work very hard to make sure that our kids growing up stay close to our culture, our roots, our religion. So the way I see it, he gets to experience the best of both worlds.
What a lucky young fella. Wave high. Thank you, Dimple. I'll take that back from you.
Of course.
See, it's
Thank
natural to walk off with it. Okay. I loved it. When microaggressions are repeated, they are not micro anymore. Did you all hear that? Okay, so here's what I want you to do. We're still in the COVID environment. I mean, it's kind of gone away. You know, we're all pretty comfortable in here. So I'm not going to ask you to turn to your neighbor and high five or hug or anything, but here's what I want you to do. I want you to 3 people around you that you did not come with, okay? See, in the black church, we do this sometimes. The pastor will say, hey, I want you to tell 3 people that you love them. Okay, that's what we're about to do, but it's a little bit different, okay? I just want you to lock eyes with 3 people you didn't come with and do like this. I see you. Just 3 people you didn't come with. 3 people. Let them know you see them. 3 people. There we go. I see you. Okay, we want everybody seen. Yes, okay, good job. That's how we're gonna do this inclusion thing in this environment. Okay, so this next speaker coming up is going to talk to us about how inclusion unfolds in education, in educating populations that may or may not, you may not think, might be educatable, so educatable, learned. Anywho, we'll let him figure it out. So please welcome with me, Mr. Fred. Come on out here, Mr. Fred.
Thank you. Got it all out of my hair? Yeah. Who deserves an education? I believe that education should be inclusive. My mission is to bring education to everyone, everywhere. Let me introduce you to Duda. Duda was born in the Kibera slums of Nairobi, Kenya. In Africa, it's common for families to pay their school fees by the month. When Duda's parents could pay, he could learn. And when they couldn't, he couldn't. This was true on and off throughout his entire education, until he got to the point where he had only one assignment left to complete to finish high school. His parents ran out of money and he had to drop out. With just a few days to go before the semester was to end, he went all over Kibera asking anyone with a computer whether he could have just a little bit of time so he could complete his assignment and he could graduate. Finally, with time running out, a girls' school said that he could work, but not when the girls were there and only at night. He worked straight through several nights, completed his assignment, and was able to graduate high school. When asked later, what drove you, what prompted you to keep pushing through despite everything working against you, he said, the human body is limited. The human mind has no limits. I think we can all agree that Duda deserves an education. Let me introduce you to James, not his real name. James was a violent criminal. One weekend, he kidnapped a woman, robbed her, assaulted her over several days, and stabbed her multiple times until she was paralyzed. He took her limp body to an alligator-infested swamp where he held her head underwater until he thought she was dead. She didn't die. James was caught, convicted, and sentenced to life without parole. Does James deserve an education? It's easy to talk about inclusion of the innocent, people like Duda, who through no fault of their own are striving heroically to better themselves. But what about the guilty? What about James? Does James deserve an education? I think he does. Not, of course, by virtue of anything he's done, but simply because he's human. There's a Hebrew saying that to save one life is to save the universe. And I believe this applies even to the Jameses of the world. Their lives, their minds are worth saving too. A mind is a terrible thing to waste. In 1972, the United Negro College Fund adopted this as its slogan, and it's considered one of the most effective in advertising history. Why does it so resonate with us? Well, I believe it's because we all have a deep-seated belief that every human deserves a chance to develop to their full potential. In fact, the very definition of human speaks to this. Education is at the heart of what it means to be human. The very term Homo sapiens means wise human. To be human is to be wise, or at least to be able to pursue wisdom. And when we deny people access to education, we're denying them the ability to be part of humanity. Surely we all agree that every member of our species deserves an education. Or do we? Throughout history in America and around the world, we've been ambivalent about how we treat our criminals. In 1689, as part of the Glorious Revolution, King William and Queen Mary adopted the English Bill of Rights. One of its provisions was to prohibit cruel and unusual punishment, the first time this happened in history. And this carried over into the American colonies, and finally into the American Bill of Rights as the Eighth Amendment. Now, building on this foundation, in the 19th century, America became famous as a place where criminals were rehabilitated rather than punished. In Pennsylvania, prisons were redesigned as intentional spaces where inmates were given every opportunity to reflect on their crimes, contemplate their sins, and become penitent. For the luminaries of Europe, this American idea of penitentiaries was a matter of great fascination. And the famous Frenchman Alexis de Tocqueville actually came to the United States not in order to write his book Democracy in America, but rather to write a report for the French government on the topic of this American crazy experiment in rehabilitating criminals. This continued into the 20th century. President Lyndon Johnson in 1965 signed the Higher Education Act, which extended the Pell Grant program to inmates. Inmates were included, and throughout the 1970s and 1980s, educational programs flourished in prisons all across the country. But then in 1994, President Bill Clinton, determined to demonstrate he was tough on crime, repealed the eligibility of inmates for Pell Grants. Inmates were excluded, and prison education programs disappeared all across the country. Now, just because formal college classes were no longer taking place in prisons didn't mean that other individuals and organizations could step in. And that's where our civics program comes in. At Sensible School, we're engaged in a transformative program to bring education and citizenship and liberty to inmates in a maximum security environment. I'd like to share with you a little bit about what we're doing and why we're doing it. In 2016, at the South Bay Correctional Facility, the lawyer son of a Florida Atlantic University professor convinced his father to offer a series of lectures on civics. Now, normally such programs are restricted to those who have 5 years or left on their sentences, but in this case, civics was open to everyone. When the program was coming to a close at the end of 12 weeks, however, something quite remarkable happened. So transformed were they by what they were learning that the inmates refused to graduate. So what was supposed to be a one-time 12-week series of lectures was quickly transformed into a 48-week certificate program in civics, ethics, economics, and literature. The room where civics is held can hold 120 inmates, and the program consistently fills the room. It's now completing its 6th year. When I first went to South Bay, I was given an opportunity to meet James. James is an incredible student. He has been transformed by civics and has now been in prison for 36 years. As a result of this program, his mind is not being wasted. Now, the experiment in penitentiaries was actually a failure. Inspired by the Quaker idea of silent worship, inmates were placed in solitary confinement. Everyone in the facility wore masks, including the guards, so that inmates could not see any other human faces. The only exception was the chapel, which was custom built with individual cells, such that only the pastor could see and only he could be seen. And only his voice was heard by inmates, often for years at a time. We now know that such isolation leads to mental breakdown. Inmates became animals, and many went insane. Solitary confinement is now only used as a means of punishment or in cases where safety considerations demand it. But when we deny education to inmates, I believe we're doing something very much like putting them in solitary confinement. We constrict their minds and we limit their worldview. In fact, I think it's the case that denying access to inmates could be every bit as cruel and unusual as physical punishment. Now, the first time I went to South Bay, I was given a tour of the facility, and I lectured to the class, and then I was given an opportunity to talk one-on-one with a number of individual inmates about what the program meant to them. Before civics, I was angry, bitter, and frustrated, one of them told me. As a result of civics, I've learned that being a citizen requires caring for and about others. Before civics, I was wild and out of control. As a result of civics, I've learned that discipline is part of living a fully human life. Before civics, I thought the world owed me. As a result of civics, I now realize that with liberty comes responsibility, and if I want to be free, I must learn to be responsible. One of the inmates I talked to, we'll call him Kelvin, was bursting with enthusiasm to share all the things that he had learned back in his home community. I know I'm responsible for my crimes, he said, but no one ever taught me these things. If they had, maybe I wouldn't be here in the first place. I want to go back to my community and I want to share what I've learned because maybe I can keep others from ending up where I did. Kelvin looked young, and so I asked him how long he'd been in prison. 15 years, he said. Thinking about how much good he could do back in his community, I asked him how much more time he had on his sentence. 15 years, he said. Should Kelvin be denied an opportunity to learn the relationship between liberty and responsibility? Should his mind be wasted? Now, the second time that I went, I was given a chance to talk to the whole class again, and I asked them to explain to me not simply what it meant to them as individuals, but to explain how the prison had changed as a whole as a result of civics. And a number of inmates got up and they shared stories along the lines of, before civics, we would talk about girls and sports and cars and girls and girls. As a result of civics, we listen to the news and we talk about what's going on in Tallahassee and we talk about what's going on in Washington and what it means for this country and for our state and for the community. That wouldn't have happened without civics. Then an inmate stood up and he said, you might not know this, but this prison has a problem with illegal drugs. And many of us know that we're not going to be released for a very long time. But we decided we don't have to wait until we're released to begin practicing responsibility. So we've decided together and on our own that we're going to try to do something about this illegal drug problem. That wouldn't have happened without civics. Then one inmate stood up. He was wearing a kufi, and he asked another inmate to stand and another one. And he said, I'm a Muslim, and he's a Christian, and he's a Jew. When we have free time, we get together and we talk about what we're learning in class. And I would challenge you to find another prison in this country where a Muslim, a Christian, and a Jew can be friends. I think there is value in bringing education to these people, regardless of what brought them into prison in the first place, and regardless of when, if ever, they're going to be released. At Sensible School, we're working to bring civics to prisons all across the country, including in Indiana. And the Pell Grant program has been recently reauthorized to make inmates eligible. We're working to make civics part of an accredited college program. After he graduated from high school, Duda was given a full scholarship to the Tuna Panda Institute, a tech training program in which he flourished and even became an instructor for some time. He's now working as a software coder and he's doing really well. James was recently transferred to another facility. As soon as he got there, he began lobbying for the extension of civics into his new home. A class was open for 35 inmates and is going to be starting soon. And as a result of James' advocacy and enthusiasm, 80 inmates signed up. It'll be our third facility in Florida. Our mission is to bring education to everyone, everywhere. Every mind, is a terrible thing to waste. Thank you very much.
All right, Fred, thank you so much. So before you leave us, quick question for you. What are some of your observations about your students? What have you found to be the case with them?
Inmates make incredible students. You ask a question, and in a room of 120 hands go up. They are the most enthusiastic learners I've ever met in any educational environment, and I've spent a lot of time on college campuses. But it's a little weird because some of them may only have a second or third grade education. They may not talk like they're smart, but be careful. Others of them have medical degrees. They might be in there for pushing pills. But some of those guys with a second or third grade education, they may have been running multi-million-dollar businesses, and they're very, very sophisticated. Then the other thing is that one of the criticisms that the world has of young people today is their short attention span. These guys' biggest problem is boredom. And so you give them an assignment, read these 20 pages out of Tocqueville, and you give them the whole book to select them out of. And you come back a week later, and they've not only read the assignment, they've read the whole book, 1,200 pages, twice. So they are incredible students.
so much for not only what you do, but just being here with us tonight to share a little bit about that. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Take that back from you. Thank you. So we have talked about immigration. We have talked about education. Now we're going to turn our focus a little bit and go inward. Okay, where does inclusion really start? What's required to belong? So I'm excited about this next young lady. She's going to come and share her perspective about inclusion of self. So please welcome Miss Chandra Cortez.
This is great. All right. Let me take you back to the year 2000. I was in elementary school and I was having a sleepover with one of my friends. We were singing karaoke to Britney Spears and dancing to Christina Aguilera. We woke up and had pancakes for breakfast, and it was just so much fun. I remember thinking, this is a fifth grader's dream sleepover. The next morning, I remember my mom came to pick me up, and my friend, probably 10 or 11 years old, just walks right up to her and says, "Me and my parents don't like black people or Mexicans." And my mom paused and said, "You know Chandra's Mexican, right?" Needless to say, I wasn't really allowed to hang out with that friend much after this. But deeper than the loss of a friendship were the questions that I was left with. They don't like Mexicans? What's wrong with Mexicans? What is wrong with me? This wasn't the first time that I'd heard something like this, though. Growing up, I lived in a small, rural Indiana town where, for most of my schooling, my brother and I were the only non-white students. So because of this, I heard jokes and comments about me being Mexican, more often just referred to as brown. And whether they be comments or jokes or remarks from a 10-year-old who doesn't fully understand what she's saying, words hurt. And those words made me feel like I didn't belong and that I wasn't fully included. And wanting to be included is a natural human desire. We are tribal creatures by nature. And in our history, when we were a part of a group, it meant that we were safe. We had people watching out for us, and we were not alone. But if we were shunned and outcast and no longer a part of that group, no one had our back. And we were on our own. And that was scary. And I held that fear inside my 10-year-old body, and what I thought I needed was the acceptance and the safety of others. What I thought I was missing was the approval from those who made me feel like I was not enough. So to achieve this, I started to shrink myself and contort myself and shape-shift myself into a box that I thought others wanted to see. And while I did this, I asked myself questions like, why can't I belong? Why can't they just include me? And I think when many of us hear the word inclusion, we think of trying to change someone else's perspective or opinion on those that they view as different. Whether their differences come from their color, race, size, shape, gender, sexuality, whatever that difference is, they just want others to see them as enough. And I believed this for a long time as well. But now I believe that inclusion starts within, with self-love, self-acceptance, and self-respect. When we can radically embrace all parts of who we are, we leave no room for anyone else to tear us down. We can stop spending our time and our energy on trying to change the minds of those who don't yet see our worth, and instead can start to use that time and energy on loving and accepting all parts of who we are. I believe that when we own our stories and our worth, we create more space for others to reclaim their power as well. We can remember that we are always 100% lovable, we are always fully whole, and we are always enough. We can recognize that our worth is not dependent on anyone else's acceptance or any external situations. It took me a while to fully believe this, but I remember hearing this quote from Eleanor Roosevelt. And she said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." And this intrigued me, and this got me curious, and I wanted to know, where was I giving my consent away? And how do I put a stop to that? Because how I feel is my power, and I wanted to learn how to take that back. So years after the sleepover incident, I was talking to my therapist and I was drawing her this picture, and it was me inside this box, and I was trying to hold the lid up because I felt like I was being trapped inside of a tomb. I told her, I don't want to be in this box, I don't belong in this box, but I don't know how to get out of this box. One of the things she asked me, she said, "So you feel like you don't belong. What do you think that's referring to?" And I paused and I thought about it, but I wasn't really sure. This is the first time that I'd vocalized this feeling. So I told her, I was like, I don't really know. And she asked me, she said, "Do you think it has anything to do with you being Mexican?" I said, "No, that couldn't be," and I brushed it aside. I had disconnected with those pieces of me long ago. I didn't even know I was still carrying those memories inside of my body. So I leave that session, and a few years go by where I still feel like I'm not fully included. Until one day, I sit down with myself and I just ask, why don't I feel that I belong? And those stories and those memories and those jokes and those remarks all came flooding back to me. And the wounds still felt raw. And I realized, yes, being Mexican did have something to do with me feeling like I was not fully included. While I had been chasing the acceptance and the safety of others, I had slowly started to turn my back on myself. And while I was trying to change the things that I saw as different and therefore deemed as bad, I had stopped including those pieces of myself. And when I saw that, I knew that I could disconnect no longer, because in reality, those are the pieces of me that make me beautiful and unique and, yes, different, but in the most wonderful of ways. And when I realized that I was still carrying that hurt and that pain from wanting to be accepted, wanting to be included, wanting to feel safe, I knew that can continue no longer. That was where I was giving my consent away. And no longer could I let my worth be determined by those who saw me as less than. And when I made this decision that how I felt was my choice, if I felt loved, if I felt accepted, if I felt that I belonged, that was all on me. And then I slowly started to play with the ideas that I am 100% lovable. I am fully whole, and I am always enough. Things started to shift in my life. And when I recognized that my worth is not dependent on anyone else and that I no longer needed to chase that acceptance and safety, I was able to show up for myself in bigger ways. Because when we change our stories, even stories we don't realize are running in the background, we change our lives. And we slowly become the change we'd wish to see in the world because we included ourselves. And I want everyone here to know that these decisions are always available to all of us. And I want to encourage everyone here today to play with the beliefs of owning your worth, reclaiming your power, and no longer giving your consent away to others. I want to share 2 questions with you that I used a lot as I was learning how to accept all the pieces of me. You don't have to answer out loud, but I want to ask these questions and just feel what comes up for you. 1, what parts of me need to be loved and included today? And 2, how can I give myself that love and inclusion? And then most importantly, follow through. Give yourself what you need. Fill up your own cup and stop waiting for permission from anyone else. That is what I mean when I say inclusion starts within. When we can love all parts of us, when we can accept those pieces that we had accidentally turned our back on, and when we can respect that we've just always been doing our best. We start to cultivate that safety from within, and we know we don't have to chase it any longer. We realize that we can always have our own back. And most importantly, we know that it is safe to be all parts of who we are. Thank you.
Woo! That was powerful, sis. That was powerful. I feel like giving myself a big hug after that. Okay, we're going to do that in a minute. But before we do that, you're having a slumber party.
Mm-hmm.
The year is 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Who's invited?
Everybody. But you have to bring a snack, so.
Good job. Thank you so much, Chandra.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time. Seriously, I wasn't really joking, so come on, stand up with me. Stand up with me. This is not a spectator sport. And walk the talk. Just give yourself a quick hug. Yes, a little stretch. There we go. Good job. Okay, we're making good pace. Once you feel loved up, there you go. Hello, hey. How you doing? I like that. Okay. Whew, how you feel? Have you learned anything? Yes, me too, me too. Every single time I learned something a little bit different, like that good movie that you just can watch. So, I am super excited about this speaker. We're not supposed to have favorites. No, they're all my favorites. But this gentleman here, I absolutely love listening to him and hearing about just how great we can be. So I'm not even going to beleaguer it or delay it any longer. Please, please put your hands together for Mr. Alexander Peterson.
Let me win, but if I cannot win, let me be brave in the attempt. Shortly after birth, I was found alone. I went to a foster home and was later adopted. My birth mother drank alcohol during pregnancy. And since I have brain damage from fetal alcohol syndrome, nothing in life has ever been easy. My brain, it looks like Wi-Fi. Sometimes the signal is strong. Sometimes the signal is weak. But most of the time, the signal is really, really slow. I struggle to understand. In elementary school, most kids couldn't understand me when I spoke. Some laughed and called me names. Far more walked by me like I didn't exist. No doubt, my disability scares people quicker and longer than the color of my skin. My speech therapist believed in my abilities, making me practice harder. She was just one person, yet she made a huge difference in my life. After a decade of physical therapy, I could finally move my arms and legs in a smooth motion. I wasn't the fastest kid on the playground. But you know what? No one could run as far as me. I joined the cross-country team and gained valuable self-confidence. I even found my voice. For the first time in my life, my disability didn't define me. But so many people still focused on what? I couldn't do. I showed them and went on to earn not one, but 4 varsity ladders. I began my speech with the Special Olympics oath, which symbolizes the vision of Eunice Kennedy Shriver. When she founded this incredible organization in 1968, it describes my bravery, not only when I attempt to win on the track, But also, when I attempt every day to be included and be accepted. You see, Special Olympics means more than winning. We improve our fitness, gain in extended family, feel good about ourselves, continue competing in our 20s, 30s, 40s, even 50s. And most importantly, show everyone that each person with an intellectual disability is not a nobody, but a somebody. Today, I still love to run. For the 2014 National Games, I trained 6 days a week with runners faster than me. 1 year later in Princeton, New Jersey, I ran 3 personal bests and won 3 gold medals. At the 2018 Games in Seattle, I added another gold and 2 silvers, running the 1500 meter in 4 minutes, 42 seconds. Let's take a look.
This is a short race, isn't it? Just under 4 laps. So if somebody goes out super fast,
don't stick with them.
Let them go, because they're not going to be able to keep that. How many times have you ran this 1500?
A lot.
A lot. So you know exactly what to do. And have you ever lost this race?
No.
Every 1500 you've ran, you have won. Are we going to win today?
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to win today.
In 2019, I represented the United States at the Special Olympics World Games in Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates. On the world stage, in the desert heat, I brought home a silver and a gold medal for USA. Yet, I seek a greater reward. I don't ever want your pity. Rather, I need your respect. The respect that all people with differences deserve. My new challenge is full marathons. That's 26.2 miles. After running my race in 2 hours and 57 minutes, I earned the name No Limits Andrew. And I qualified for the Boston Marathon. In Indiana, I continue to serve the 500 Festival as its first ever running ambassador. Now it's your turn to join the inclusion revolution. Are you ready to show respect? I can't hear you. Are you ready to stop bullies? Yes. That's more like it. I hope bullies are never, and I mean never, welcome here. My friends, the time is now. You are called to make a difference. One person at a time. In closing, always remember the lasting impression you can make on me and people like me. And we can leave with you. Thank you for leading.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. And I complain on my Army 2-mile run, sir. Question for you. I have heard that you do fundraising and raise money for organizations such as Gleaners Food Bank. So during the lockdown, tell us how many miles you ran for them.
I ran 150 miles. Yeah, a week. So, yeah, yeah. Wait, 3 days,
miles.
so.
3 days time, 150 miles, folks. So just thank you for pushing yourself and sharing your story with us and motivating us to reach a little bit deeper, go a little bit further. Thank you, Andrew, everyone. I told you I was not playing. Wow. Yes, I hear some more wows too. Let's soak it in. Oh, thank you. I'll take that back. Okay. Feeling good? Anybody crying? Yes. Amen. Feeling great? Y'all good? You got tissues? Okay, good. All right. Just checking in with you. So we are coming down to the last couple of speakers, and we have some more lessons to learn, some more stories of inclusions to hear. So this next speaker, she has my heart as well. Okay, there may be all my favorites, but she talks about a concept that as soon as she said the word, I knew we were kindred spirits. So I want to bring her out here to share with you. Please welcome Pastor Kelly.
Thanks. That's the intro I wanted for my very first sermon. And instead, I looked like this. Gosh, I wanted that first sermon to be so good. I was covering 1 Corinthians chapter 13. I was going to talk all about God's love, everything that was important to me, everything wonderful about faith. So I sat down, got on my computer, and immediately went to Facebook, right? And I found this picture. This picture is talking about an African philosophy called Ubuntu. It's one of Stephanie's favorite words. It means I am because we are. It comes from a bigger Zulu phrase that translates something to I am a person through other people. Gosh, how we need that. How we need the power of coming together and making a difference. And coming together and making a difference is exactly what this philosophy has inspired. We talk about the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in South Africa, following the South African apartheid. Or the fight for majority rule voting in Zimbabwe, the issue of freedom and independence in Southern Rhodesia. This philosophy has power. And I believe this philosophy has power because it is rooted in love. It could be capital L love, like it is for me. It could be friendship love. It could be anything you need it to be, but love is, in fact, at the center. And I think this is so powerful that is why I'm here this evening to talk to you about what we could do together. Because I believe we do, in fact, have to come together in order to make a difference. Now, I know what you're thinking. Sounds a little crazy. We could have done this already. I agree. We have this thing that gets in our way. It's called scarcity mindset. This absurd concept that everything good is limited. That everything is limited. And therefore, we have to stuff our pockets and grab extra bags, and next thing you know, we still might not have enough. Friends, scarcity mindset is the opposite of Ubuntu. I think it's a mold that we have to break out of. And I think it's a mold that we can break out of. With the power of love and coming together. Now, I'm not talking about false harmony or fake unity. It's not color blindness or don't ask, don't tell. This is real, genuine relationship with all of humanity. That who we are is so intertwined that my justice depends on your justice. That my freedom depends on your freedom. And my life is connected to your life. Oh, how we have so much work to do. And yet, I've started to know the power of this love. On September 18th, 2018, I came out on social media. For friends who have done this before, you know how hard pushing that publish button is. For friends who haven't, it's really scary. It's really exciting, it's overwhelming, it's lonely. And yet, I decided to offer myself because look at that love and that joy, come on. It has to be shared, it's infectious. And I'm so glad that I did, because once we start building those muscles, we can't help but bring people in and get stronger and stronger together. And I needed that. Just a few months later, when the United Methodist Church decided on a global scale to not only keep but worsen their restrictions on gay marriage and queer ordination. In a matter of 3 days, 2 years of hard work and 10 years of a call from God disappeared. I felt for a moment that I was left with nothing, but then I got a text message and a phone call. And people who stopped by my grad school dorm, yes, I went to a grad school with dorms. And I realized that because I had offered part of my story and part of myself, I was not in this alone. Oh, the power we have in this common humanity, the power we have in love. So as I started to put myself back together and put the pieces together, I heard friends saying the same thing over and over again. Kelly, you have to go where you're taken care of. I don't know what it looks like for you, but you have to go where you're taken care of. So it's no coincidence then that the Presbyterian Church USA calls their ordination process being taken under care. And on June 13th of 2021, after a few more exams and committee meetings, I was ordained. This is a right bestowed on me that can never be taken away. This is a right that reminds me that I am loved and I am enough just as I am. And it is my life's duty to tell you the same exact truth. But the fun doesn't end there, right? Because life continues to throw us curveballs and things that we think we know that definitely get turned around so quickly. So I accepted a pastoral residency at a really large church. So excited to live into this concept of big tent theology. Everyone is welcome here. Everyone is appreciated. We want you. What they don't tell you about big tent theology is that sometimes people get pushed out on the side. Or we forget to bring you a chair. Or you sit right in that crevice where all of the rainwater pools together until the canvas can't hold and you get soaked and everyone else is dry. I was having a really hard time and I had to name it for myself, and then I had a choice to make. I can stay in this toxic situation and keep my head down, finish the residency, and hope for the best in my next place. Or I can remember that muscle. So I shared with my best friend, and I said, this is what's going on. I'm having a really hard time. And then all of a sudden, I got the confidence to talk to a good friend at work, and then I got the confidence to talk to my supervisor, and things were happening. Because I was being seen. Friends, that's the power that we hold. To see one another, to hear one another, to validate one another. It should be noted that this story doesn't end perfectly. I would love to say that there was drastic change and wonderful inclusion and everything fantastic. But I made the choice to leave the church. And gosh, it was hard. But there's hope. There's hope that all of you decided to come spend just a couple minutes with us this evening on a Wednesday that started off really cold and ended up really hot. There is hope, friends, because it's not just my story that has bolstered my belief in this concept of common humanity. It's the stories that you're holding and those things that popped up in your mind the moment that I stepped out here. You know it. There is hope that we can, in fact, make the world a better place by including one another. When we're together, we are stronger. When we're together, our burdens are just a little bit lighter. When we're together, those loud voices telling us lies are so much softer. When we're together, we have power. Power to change the world. Now, my ultimate dream was to finish this lovely speech with a quote from that first sermon. Guys, it was terrible. So I'm not going to do that. But instead, I'll lean on better words than my own, the late Archbishop Desmond Tutu. He said, Ubuntu means the essence of being human. It's there, and you know it. And when it's not, you know it too. It encompasses courage and gentleness, vulnerability, our abilities to put ourselves out for the sake of one another. It has this magical tendency to balance compassion and toughness. I am a person because of other people. Friends, we have a power in our hands. Whatever your ministry looks like, let it be with love. And through all things, let us remember that we are not alone. The more we exercise that muscle, I believe, the better the world will be. Thank you so much.
Boom! Thank you. And you were right. When she said the word Ubuntu in the practice sessions, I was like, yes, because my kids, they're sick of my stuff. But when I heard that word, I was like, yes, kids, this is us. Ubuntu. Anyway, I love it. That's a sidebar. So, Here's my question for you. You talked about big tent theology and sometimes being pushed in the crevice of the corner where the rain comes down. So, what's your ministry looking like now?
First of all, tear the tent down. And let's put up some more tables. The way I'm currently doing that, I serve as a special education instructional assistant at Ascend School number 47. Yep. And I get to spend my whole day loving on little kids. Gosh, I have no idea if they've learned anything from me, but I have certainly learned from them.
I'm sure they have. So, Pastor Kelly is leaving us. She's going to be moving in 2 days, 1 day?
2 days.
2 days to Washington State. I'm coming to visit. And so before we let you go, I do want us to send some love to Pastor Kelly. Pastor Kelly's wife had to fly out on an emergency to look after her wife's dad. So just send some love. Can you feel it? Send that to Kate. Tell her that we miss her. Okay. Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time, yes. And I'll take that back. Boom.
Thanks, y'all.
You can always tell, like, Toastmasters. Thank you. Okay. What you didn't know about me is that in another life, like, I'm a real MC for real. So before we bring out our last speaker, because I told you this is a participation sport, I just want you to sing along with me, okay? Here we go. Now, when I say walk the, you say talk. Walk the, talk. Walk the, talk. Now, when I say epic, you say shift. Epic, shift. Epic, shift. Now, when I say we, you say belong. We, belong. We, belong. Okay, all right, we did good. Give it up. Woo. Keep the energy high. But see, back in the day, I wasn't out of breath after that. You know, I'm a goofball, that's why they keep me around. Okay, so, I know it's almost bedtime. Here we go. Who's up past their bedtime? Just serve it. I knew it. I know my tribe. I know my people. Okay, so coming to the stage with our last story of inclusion, I want you to welcome Mr. George Middleton.
Thank you. Do I have confetti in my hair? Go back in your minds to the time in your life when you were children. Do you remember how effortless it was to just be kids? Why is it that it takes more effort to just be as an adult? My early childhood memories begin here. St. Henry's Catholic School. That parking lot is the playground where I played every day during recess. And it brings back great memories of me and my schoolmates just being kids. We knew who we were, and more importantly, we knew our mission. And that was to have as much fun as often as we possibly could. Looking back on it now, I realized something. Kids are naturally inclusive. No walls, no boundaries, no pretenses. When do children begin to lose their natural ability for inclusive behaviors? Well, in my work with youth and families, here's what I've learned. For the most part, children in their early stages of development generally very rarely have any confusion about who they are. However, when a child's self-image becomes challenged, his subconscious sense of self comes into conscious awareness. And for the first time, he begins to question his natural sense of identity. This is what happened to me. Let me tell you about it. So one day after recess, we're back in the classroom, and I'm sitting behind my classmate, and she turns around and asks me this question, totally out of the blue. "Why are your hands white?" she asks. Now I'm just 7 years old. I never really looked at my hands in any intentional or meaningful way. Neither was I aware of my physical appearance or how that might even be perceived by others. And as I'm trying to grasp my brain around her question, she's continuing. And she goes on to say, "My hands are white on both sides. Why aren't yours brown all the way around?" Now, at that point, it took all of the intellectual stamina that I had to try to form what I thought would be a very intelligent reply, which was the best that I had for a second grader with absolutely zero self-awareness. Now, as random and as minor as that incident may sound or seem, it had significant impact. I thought that something was wrong with me. I thought that her hands were the standard. And subconsciously, I began to judge myself according to those standards in other areas of my life. Later on in my professional area of study and expertise, I learned that that experience is known as negrescence. Negrescence is a theory formed by psychologist James Cross. It's a 5-stage model used to describe the experiences associated with becoming a psychologically healthy black man or woman in the United States. The story that I'm sharing with you is known as the encounter stage, where an individual is challenged with a profound experience or set of experiences directly related to race that cause him or her to re-examine their self-identity. In the pre-encounter stage, individuals do not believe that race is an important aspect of identity. When I learned this, it really caught my attention, so much so that I want to say that again. In the pre-encounter stage, individuals do not believe that race is an important aspect of identity. This stage causes me to question the use of race in the first place. What psychologically healthy purpose do these racial identities, black and white, serve? Are the psychological needs for those with darker skin any different from those with lighter skin? Is it psychologically sane to socially practice racial identities of division, black and white, and then turn around and expect social behaviors of inclusion? Now, for those of you who are educated in the social construct of race, you most likely already know the answers to these questions. However, in reality, our country is woefully uninformed, and worse, misinformed about race ideology. This is the foundational basis and primary motivation for my life's work: to address the connection between our mental health and race, especially as it pertains to our children, our future. Let me tell you why. Children who feel capable and worthy are more likely to be optimistic and perform well academically. A healthy sense of identity in children helps them to be more open to people from different backgrounds, less likely to fear differences in others, and less likely to put other children down in order to bring themselves up. Look at the world that we adults today are presenting our children. From the knee of Colin Kaepernick on the football field, to the knee of Derek Chauvin on the neck of George Floyd. From the spawning of Black Lives Matter to the continuing rise of white nationalist organizations. From the COVID-19 fueled prejudice toward the Asian community to a resurgence of anti-Semitism, and from the critical race theory driven school board protests to the banning of books across the country. Let me ask you something. Have these current events been a psychologically healthy experience for you? Are you aware of the impact that they're having on our children? You know, as it pertains to inclusion, race isn't the only problem. It's a significant part of the problem, but not the only part. My experience with the encounter stage was with racial identity. However, isn't it conceivable that anyone can have an experience of encounter with any of these other identities? Family, sexual, political, and a host of others. What was your experience with encounter? When did you feel left out of the mainstream for something different or unique about you? And let's look at it from the other side. Is it possible that you may have contributed to someone else's encounter experience? So, as it pertains to creating a healthy climate of inclusion, here's my premise. Inclusion begins with identity. Now, if you accept that premise, the next logical question would be, which identities most effectively align with the value of inclusion? And to that, I have 3 criteria. 1, it's organic. 2, it's timeless. And 3, it is not based in ideology. So with that, I would like to present to you the identities that I feel best align with this criteria, beginning with the identity of family, parents, siblings, mother, father, son, daughter, sister, brother. The identity of American. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. Now that may sound based in ideology, but look deeper. Isn't the value of equality and fair treatment an organic desire in almost everyone you know, including all of you here in this room? And the last identity, human being. We are 99.9% genetically identical across the globe. Think about that. We are a human species, not a race. You know, as it pertains to ideologies, they come and go. We've seen politicians move from conservative, liberal, independent, and all the way back again. We've seen well-known personalities change their racial identity from black to white, even creating new categories like Cablinasian. And remember, race is an ideology. The problem is not about skin color. The problem is how we're thinking about skin color. And we've seen people change their religious persuasions as well as their nationalities. However, those identities which matter most hardly ever change. Imagine what inclusion would look like in this country if we were to narrow our focus and base all of our social policies and practices on those identities which matter most. This is something that I know we can do. We have the resources at our disposal to get it done. So as I prepare to leave you, I'd like to present you with this activity. I call it the yes test, because I love yes. And it's comprised of 3 yes questions. Now, the strength of the test depends on the level of belief you have in your answers. Are you ready to try it? Yes. Come on, are you ready to try it? Yes. All right, very good. That was practice. Okay, first question. Aren't we all someone's parents, siblings, mother, father, son, daughter, sister, brother? Yes. Now, if there's someone in this room who's not in any of those categories, please stand up and tell us how you got here. Okay, good. Next question. Aren't we all created equal? Yes. Do you believe it? Yes. Good. Last yes question. Aren't we all human beings? Yes. Now again, if there's someone in this room who's not human, okay. All right, good. We, in this room and across the globe, are 99.9% genetically identical. Do you know what that means? We're genetically linked. Do you feel the energy in this room? Are you alive? Yes. Do you feel the energy in this room? Yes. That is our wireless genetic link resonating within us. And that's important because it's reciprocal. And here's what that means. It means that whatever happens to you happens to me. That whatever I do to you, I also do to me. And likewise with inclusion, when I make the choice to include you, you all are also making the choice to include me. Go back in your minds to the time in your lives when you were children. Do you remember how effortless it was to just be kids? Thank you.
Thank you, George. So when I went back in my mind to when I was a kid, I could one-handed cartwheel out here, but
Can we see that?
no, I thought we better just keep it to thinking about when you were a kid. So question for you. We are at Starbucks and we see that young lady again who asked the question. So a few years removed from childhood, how would you answer that today? Why is your hand a different color here than here?
Well, if I were to see that young lady again, I would ask her to talk to the hand.
I'll take that. I'll take that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Give it up for George and all of the speakers, please. So, we hope that you have enjoyed yourself tonight. First of all, give yourself a round for coming out. You got dressed, you put on underclothes and clothes, and you came out. So thank you for being here with us. Let's bring out all of the speakers. And yes. So really quickly, I am about to hand the mic off to our fearless leader. Yes, you know who I'm pointing. You know who I'm coming to. But I do want to say to Steve Ross, thank you for all that you do and for walking your talk each day.
Wow. Woo! Thank you, everybody. I mean, you guys have heard millions or hundreds of great quotes and comments today, and the thing that I think about is something I was listening to a book, and it was a quote by Booker T. Washington, and he said, "We are all as different as the fingers on our hands, but we have to work together." And that's, I'm getting goosebumps now thinking that. So anyway, I want to thank our sponsors, which is GRNE Solar, Still Point Chiropractic, Be Empowered Coaching, which is her, Indie Holistic, and Refinery 46. Without you guys, we wouldn't be here. So thank you. Thank you very much. And also our Walk the Talk teens, which I think there's some Walk the Talk teens in here tonight. You guys raise your hand over there. All right. So thank you guys. Thank you so much. And let's hear it again for the blessed speakers that we've had tonight. Yeah. These are the people that make Walk the Talk, and including you guys. You guys are now part of hashtag Walk the Talk Tribe. So if you post anything on social media, put that hashtag in there, or hashtag Walk the Talk Indie, hashtag Inclusion Revolution. That's we're working on that tonight, right? Right? No limits, Andrew? Yeah. Yes. That's right. Okay, and also the entire production crew, including the band, the Walk the Talk Band. They've been with us since 2016, so love you guys. And Brian back there, he's hiding out somewhere. And of course, the crew here is at the Shelton, and awesome people to work with. So you guys ready for the balloon drop? So we've got 150 balloons up there, and they each have a motivational phrase in them. You can pop them now or take them home with you like a fortune cookie and look at them later. It's okay. It's all right. And
175 people, so you know.
Yeah. All right. So they're going to drop right in the middle. So whoever's in the middle, just kind of spread them around, spread the love around. So anyway, so band, you ready? Okay. 3, 2, 1. Woo!
Together. Together we sit, divided we fall. Come on, our people, let's get on the board and work together. Come on, let's get together. Together we will sail every boy, every girl, and every man. People and things go wrong, so sometimes and the road we travel stays all uphill. Let's get together. Come on, let's get together. You know, together we will stand every boy, every girl, every woman, and every man.
That seems good.
together. Come on, let's get together.